The World Health Organization has classified or defined the disorder is excessive use of video games, and that means any kind of video game. So video game is a blanket term for all sorts of online or app-based or television-based gaming activities. And the definition of somebody who has a gaming disorder is somebody who is playing so excessively that it is impairing their ability to have social relationships, performance in school, performance at work, and that they're doing this activity to the exclusion of all other things. There are actually a lot of examples of this in certain countries like in Canada, the United Kingdom, China, and Japan. There have already been efforts to create these, sort of like gaming detox centers for adolescents who have this disorder. And so examples of what that would look like is somebody who, sort of the extreme example would be somebody who hasn't gone to school for 2 years, doesn't bathe, barely eats, and only interacts with people online through these games. At a minimal example would be somebody, like for instance, if you're concerned that your partner or your child has this disorder, usually what we see is a decrease or a change in social behavior, a change in school performance, that they're spending more than 5 hours a day playing these video games. Some of the earliest examples of gaming addiction were identified in countries like Japan and China. And what was happening, this was a number of years ago, where Japan and China became very concerned about the fact that a lot of young men and some young women were becoming very addicted to this game called Second Life, or games like it. So Second Life is a type of game where you can create an avatar, and you create this like completely different alternative universe where you do interact with other people who are in the game, but you can create a whole new you in a way. You can create a different persona. You could even be a different gender. What happens is that what they were seeing is that people who were playing this game were finding that that world, their digital world, was far more engaging, more positive than their actual life. And so the suicide rates were increasing in these young men. In some cases, they were developing like a gaming psychosis, where they felt that if they had killed themselves, they could then live on forever in this other second life. There are people who are serious gamers, right? They really, it's a pastime that they enjoy. They have friends that they engage with, and there's nothing wrong with that as long as they have other things that they're engaged in, and that gameplay is not interfering with work, school, and other social activities. Somebody who is doing nothing but video games, I would be trying to work with them to wean them off of the video games, setting time limits. Some countries like China and Japan have already done that, where they have limited access to online video games between certain hours of the day. So for instance, you can't play between midnight and 6 o'clock in the morning. You can only, like some of the game companies in China have limited the amount of time you can actually play their game, so to 2 hours, for instance. So we don't have those kind of regulations in this country, but I would be working with the person to come up with a way to wean them off. Some of the sort of like detox centers, I'm not using the term exactly right, but the places that you can go to send your child if they really are super addicted to video games, they basically take a cold turkey approach, which is to take away the video games completely from the child's life, engage them and try to help them find other things that would make them engaged, and then the deal is when they come back home, those video games, access to video games are gone. Yes, they would love to. My brother-in-law in particular is really pretty upset with how much this has interfered with his life, that's why I mentioned that some of the people who are at risk are, kids with anxiety disorders. I think that's what's driving this, is that he has school avoidance, and this is the only other thing, because it's.